Is your life going the way you want it to? If not, tune in and find out why.
You are listening to the Prosper Law Podcast. Learn how to reduce stress, have more time, and make more money. Come on in.
I'm Greg McCollum, and I built a 7-figure criminal defense law firm. I formed Prosper Law to show criminal defense law firm owners who are desperate for success how to grow from under $200,000 to $1 million and beyond. So today's topic is, did you miss the starting gun? Did you miss the starting gun? In other words, you're in the race of life, and you think about the starting point, and there's a starting gun, and you have to go to a track and field meet, and everybody's lined up, and they're all going to start, and you're starting your life, you're starting your career, you're starting your job, you're starting your business, you're going to start working on your dream, the things that you want to do, or the things that you think you can or can't do. Did you miss the starting gun? And so, as part of that, and I wanted to play, this is a Pink Floyd song, Time. I love this song. And I was going to play a clip from it, but because of the intricacies and complications and lack of a system to buy music for something as simple as this podcast, it's very difficult. Now, it's something that somebody could probably solve, some smart person like a Mark Zuckerberg or a Jeff Bezos or something like that, and it should be solved. And I was doing a commercial one time, and I love the Rockford Files, and I wanted to use just 6 seconds from the song. It's like it's a really dynamic song. There are a lot of great songs that from like this classic age of television where they had all these music creators. Well, that's another story. But anyway, it's almost impossible to do it. And so I knew, don't even try to play the song while I'm doing the podcast, though. You can listen to the song. It's going to be a lot better than what I'm going to say. So from Pink Floyd's Time, and this is about people thinking that life happens to them. And if you think life happens to you versus you think you're directing your own life or you're writing your story of what you want life to be, if you think life happens to you, then you're just getting, it's like you're getting washed around in a washing machine. You cannot really expect to get anything that you want, or certainly not most of what you want. You can't really expect to have success because, there's a term rudderless. You're a rudderless ship. So you can't go in a direction if you're not intending to go into a direction. And if you believe that life happens to you, and you hear it all the time when somebody has something happens to somebody, and that's what they talk about it. I would say maybe they're complaining about it. Maybe it's not always a complaint, but you can't believe this happened to me. Oh God, this happened to me. How could this happen to me? These kind of things always happen to me. This is not a really good mindset to have. Okay, and I'm not saying things don't happen. If And in my book, From Chaos to Control, plenty of stuff happened to me, okay? But that's not the end of it. It's how you deal with what happens to you. It's how you react or don't react to what happens to you. It's how you keep going in the same direction toward that thing that you see clearly that you want to be, do, or have. That will take you there. Now, it may be a roundabout way, but if you don't have that intention in that direction, what are the odds that you could ever get there? So if you think about taking a trip, you get in your car and you got your family loaded up and you want to go somewhere good. So you just start driving and maybe take a couple of turns. Are you going to end up somewhere good? No. You're probably going to end up at some truck stop where you're hungry, and it's uncomfortable, and you're not somewhere good and everybody's complaining. To get somewhere good, you have to know where good is, and you have to move toward it. So for the song, Time, Pink Floyd, ticking away the moments that make up a dull day, kicking around on a piece of ground in your hometown, waiting for someone or something to show you the way. Waiting for someone or something to show you the way. And I think this is probably universal with a lot of people. I know that for much of my life, that's the way I lived. Now, if you look at what did I actually accomplish in life, I wanted to go to college, so I went to college. Guess what? I wanted to go to college. I intended to go to college, so I went to college. I wanted to go to law school, okay? And I went to law school because I intended to go to law school. After law school, once I studied and passed the bar and got ready to have a law license and practice, I wanted to be a criminal defense lawyer. So I wanted to work in the DA's office. And if I couldn't work in the DA's office, maybe I'd work in the public defender's office. At the time, I knew about the public defender's office, but I really wanted to work in the DA's office because I wanted to see the other side of criminal defense, and that's what I wanted to do. So how did that work out for me? Well, I went and interviewed with the DA, actually his deputy DAs, who actually were good friends with a friend of mine who worked there, and he told me, "Don't worry, you got the job." So I went down there, I interviewed with them. It was all nice, and they were slapping me on the back and stuff. And then the elected DA came in, looked at my resume, and because when I'd gotten out of law school, I moved to New York City, and I worked in the movie business. And so he didn't like that. He thought that was weird, okay? So he didn't hire me, okay? So then what did I do? Well, I didn't go get a job doing something other than criminal defense or criminal prosecution. So then I had an opportunity to work. I thought maybe I could work in Columbia, South Carolina, in Richland County. And so most of the people that graduated ahead of me, they worked there. I knew them. I was friends with them. These are really close friends of mine. And I wanted to get a job there. And they wouldn't interview me. They wouldn't even talk to me. They wouldn't do anything. And so at some point, somebody told me I got the bright idea to have a judge call them. And so I knew a judge who grew up with my mom and dad. I think actually when they were in high school, my mom had dated him a couple times or anything. So they knew him. They weren't friends with him, but they knew him because they all grew up in a small town. And so I don't think I called him because I didn't feel comfortable calling him. So I got my dad. My dad called him and said, "Hey, Judge, my son would like to, work in this DA's office in Columbia, South Carolina. Do you think you could help?" So then apparently he picked up the phone. He called them. I don't know who he talked to. He either talked to the elected DA or the deputy DA and said, "Hey, this kid that, is a friend of mine, a good friend of his family, he's a good kid. I think y'all should take a look at him." So they got me an interview. So I was like, "Oh, great. Now, finally, I got an interview." And I went in there and I tried to do and say the right things, but they were like, they didn't like me. They weren't going to hire me, okay? So then there's another town in South Carolina called Greenville, which is, they were basically three, I guess, if you could call them metropolitan areas in South Carolina. It was Charleston, Columbia, and Greenville. And so I thought, well, I could work in Greenville. That would be good. That's a nice place. And so I got an interview there, and I drove up, and I had an interview with the deputy DA there, and he didn't hire me either, okay? And I remember, and maybe I blew this, I probably should have lied. He said, "We're looking for somebody that's going to move back to the area whether we hire them or not." And I said, "Well," so he said, even if we don't hire you, you're still going to move here." And so I guess stupidly, being honest, I said, well, I have to get a job, so I don't know that I'm going to move here if you don't hire me. So they didn't hire me. They hired another guy I knew. And that guy, interestingly, worked there, about 14 months and quit and went and did something else. Probably went to work for a civil firm because he wasn't even interested in criminal defense. He just wanted a job so he could move back to Greenville. And so after that, some other things happened where I got some help, and I actually got a job in the public defender's office in the Myrtle Beach area. And then shortly after that, after I started working, the DAs took notice of me, okay, because I wasn't afraid to try a case. I could walk and talk, had some sense, and so they offered me a job, and then I worked there for 5 or 5.5 years and had a great career there. But, I didn't just sit at home and wait for somebody to send me a job offer. I didn't go look in any other civil firms. I didn't go to any kind of, civil litigation defense firm. I didn't go to a plaintiff's practice. I didn't do any of that. And in terms of getting the job that I got, I mean, I'm still fortunate because I know a lot of people that are criminal defense lawyers in different parts of the country, and they didn't get to do that. They started their own firm because they didn't have anything either. Now, the reason I got that is because I had the intention to do it. It wasn't it wasn't just life happening to me. It was happening to me. I was getting rejected, but I kept going, and I knew what I wanted to do, so I was going to keep trying to get what I want. So waiting for someone or something to show you the way. For a lot of my life, though, I lived like that, okay? And that's it's disappointing to me, disappointed in myself. But then again, I didn't know any better. Now, this song existed, but I probably didn't really listen to the lyrics. And if I did, I don't think I had enough sense to understand them. So then one day you find 10 years have got behind you. No one told you when to run. You missed the starting gun. Then one day you find 10 years have got behind you. No one told you when to run. You missed the starting gun. So, did you miss the starting gun? I know that I did. All right. No one told me to run. Okay. And no one's going to tell you to run. All right. They're not going to tell you when to run. But it's your race, and you're supposed to know that. So you say, okay, Greg, fantastic. How does that help? Well, you shape your life with decisions, and those decisions are 100% dependent on belief, okay? And you were taught basically that life happens to you. And I've talked about this a little bit. Yes, things happen, but you direct your life. And it's up to you to decide what you want to do and go in that direction and pursue it. And it could be something crazy. It could be something completely different. It could be something that you never thought possible. But unless you have the vision and work toward it, you got no chance. And belief is a big thing. But moving toward it is also a huge thing. Because, if you want to be a famous rock star and you don't get good at I'll say guitar, it could be guitar, it could be drums, though I don't want to say anything about drums. It could be the wrong way. But so let's just say guitar, because guitar is the instrument for rock and roll. And you don't practice guitar, you don't get better at guitar, you don't put yourself out there and play guitar, you don't join some cover band or something and get on stage and go through that difficult trauma of putting yourself out there and being judged and criticized and laughed at. If you don't do that, then you're not going to be a rock star. So you have to say, all right, I'm going to be a rock star. I'm going to get good at playing this guitar, and then I'm going to go do it. Okay. And there's a difference there too, because if you don't become or work with a songwriter, then you're going to be a studio musician, and you're going to be a backup player in a band. That's still good, right? Those people are important. It's still good. But if you don't do these other things, you're not going to be the rock star, because you ultimately need to, create this body of work, which is inside you, and you can do it if that's what you want to do. You have to want to do it, though, because practicing guitar is hard, writing songs is hard, and you have to stick with it. So there's a story about Keith Richards where I think that, I don't know who somebody was interviewing, and it might have been a childhood friend or something, and was talking to Keith Richards and said, "Listen, Keith, did you ever envision that you would be where you are? Did you ever envision that the Rolling Stones, you'd be in this band, and that you would have this journey and have this success? Did you ever envision that?" And he said, and this was from, I think, a very early age, he said, "Yes, I always envisioned it. I always visualized it, but I never thought it would happen. I always envisioned it. I always visualized it, but I never thought it would actually happen." So why did it happen? One is because he had the vision and he had the talent, and then he put in the time, right? Now he also, hooked up with the right bandmates who also had a similar vision, but then they had the drive to do it. So you have to do that, but you also have to have belief. Because if you don't believe you can do it, you can't do it. Henry Ford's quote is, "Whether you believe you can or you can't, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right." Whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. Okay? And there were plenty of people that didn't believe Henry Ford could. The only person that probably believed that Henry Ford could was Henry Ford. Now, there was this woman, actually it was a family, husband and wife, that I went to church with. I went to the Methodist Church in Myrtle Beach. And this woman, she's a movie star now, okay? Movie star. And so, in church, she would do these, I remember she did this musical act, and she came in and, sat, it was really cute. She was, sat on a little, like a stool, and she had her acoustic guitar and had her microphone, and she sang a song. And I don't think she wrote the song, but I don't know. I can't remember. But, she sang in church, and because, people sing in church. It's a great outlet for people musically. And so later, this kid, I think she was 16, she wanted to be an actress. And her parents, who believed in her vision, her mother, when the kid was like 16 years old, moved to Los Angeles with her and left her husband at home to run the dental practice. So she moves with her daughter to Los Angeles, and I guess they figured out how to homeschool her or something, and then enrolled her in acting classes. And the buzz around the church, and I remember the friends of mine who were musicians and very talented people, and people that had been in different places, that knew people that played on Broadway and stuff, and had friends in those kind of esteemed places, like some of the musical talent in the country and in the world. They rubbed shoulders with these people, so they lived in that kind of rarefied air, or at least knew those people, and they were highly critical. They would go kind of like, "Who do you think you are? This is so dumb. They're going to move this kid out to L.A. and she's going to be a successful actress. What a crock," kind of thing. Well, the thing is, though, this girl's name is Madison Iseman, and she's like an A-lister. Okay, it worked. She's a movie star. She was in some of the top hit TV shows. And I can't say off the top of my head the movies she's in, but if you Google her, Madison Iseman, okay, she's a star. It worked, okay? She didn't miss the starting gun. Now, thankfully, she had her parents' support and help, and I could do a whole podcast about that. But this worked. Crazy idea. They had the belief, and that's what happens. You think about belief and how important it is. You think about like a kid, a young kid is, you got some 8-year-old kid, a 9-year-old kid, and it's like, what do you want to do in life? I want to be an astronaut. And what happens? Everybody says, oh, well, people like us can't be astronauts. You have to be special. People from our small town can't be astronauts, so then they kill it. Okay, what you got to do if you're going to be successful is you got to unkill it. Okay, you got to let it live. You got to believe in it. There's some other things you need. You need some mentors. You need to know what to do. You need to stick with it. You need to be consistent. You need to be determined. If you miss a starting gun, and I don't care how old you are, literally, I don't care how old you are, I did not really start growing my practice and learning anything until I was 53. And it took me a little while to build it, but it was 53. So I was no kid. Ray Kroc described himself as a 52-year-old washed-up salesman when he started building McDonald's. Okay? So I don't care how old you are, there's still time. Even though you missed the starting gun, you still got time. If you have the belief and the purpose, it's not too late. It's not too late to start the race. It's not too late to start the race. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.
If you want to know more, go to prosperatlaw.com. We show criminal defense law firm owners how to reduce stress, have more free time, and make more money. Thanks for listening.